Lola?
Lola she was having some problems with her
leg or knee
legs,
or something like that, so she was going to have an operation.
She was using canes and wheelchairs and stuff like that. Squirt was doing, I mean, he's got the tremors.
Oh, yeah.
And, his one eye there that he lost, that the eyelid kind of droops now, so he's kind of looking at you one-eyed, but sharp. He hasn't forgotten it. I swear he could go build a race car tomorrow and be competitive. He's sharp. We've met a lot of good guys.
Well, I don't really know how old Squirt would be.
81.
Really? Mm.
Or 80. It was one or the other, right? And we've met all your contemporaries. They're all pretty darn sharp. I mean, well, actually, you were the kid in the bunch, but the guys you raced against. I mean, we've met.
Oh gosh.
Well, we went to see Eddie Kisco.
Oh yeah.
He wasn't as forthcoming. He was more reserved, and he doesn't know us, so that.
Yeah, I haven't seen Eddie. He was my teammate there when we started.
I know that. We're going to talk about Eddie later. And we saw Marv Thorpe.
Yeah.
And he
was an ex-flagman.
We saw Dill.
Where'd you find Tom at?
At his house in Erie.
Is he living here now?
Yeah.
I thought he was living in Florida.
Half and half. And
he got married again, didn't he?
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, he did, and he had a baby not too long ago.
Jesus Christ! How old's Tom? He's about 80
or 81.
Jesus.
Yeah. We're sitting around, and we said, "Tom, tell us about your wife and kids." He says, "Which wife did you want to know about?" He said, "I've been married 5 times."
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a legend.
Yeah, so we saw Dill, and we saw Whitehead, and where else have we been, Greg? Jerry Frank.
Jerry Frank. We did Chubb because he was there.
We did Chubb and Jerry together.
We really tried to limit ourselves to the 10 years. Jim
Polaro, Finale, Sammy.
So it's been fun for that, and that's our goal.
Schnars.
Like a rollerball, which is by definition only 5 years. 56 to 60, and of course you were the last winner of the last race.
Yeah.
You could put a exclamation mark on rollerball, Ronnie Blackmer.
Well, Roddy told us after he won they had to close the place down.
I got $14.
Got $14 and a kiss from Blinky.
Yeah. Sister.
and
I did get a trophy though. I gave it back though.
That's right. You saw that
after 47 years.
Harmony Historical Society is glad to have it.
They were happy to have it.
It really is very nice. But that's a good segue. I mean, here you are, Rollerball, and 1960, and that was a car that you put together by yourself, or was that part of Frank's thing?
Well, he helped me, but it was, he didn't help me work much, but he just, you do this, do that, told me.
Frank? He
taught me how to weld and all that shit, yeah.
We've heard a lot about the distinctiveness of Frank's cars, that the lightness of the cars and the welding of the cars. How was that? What was that all about?
Well, he was light. Like, we didn't even run a right rear brake, because you didn't need that brake drum and everything on the right rear. We had 3-wheel brakes.
No kidding.
Just to get rid of that right rear weight. And stuff like that.
So you stripped it right down. I mean, we had a very, very light car, and nobody else, I assume, was doing that.
No, he was head of everybody.
What about the welding? I mean, I also heard...
Oh, he's a good welder. I mean, we welded everything together, yeah.
What was his background? What was Frank's background? Was he a garage
mechanic?
Had racing been in his blood before you guys got kind of into this?
I think it started with State Line.
Did it?
Yeah, I don't... No, wait a minute. It started before State Line, because they used to run... him and Russ Thompson and Leonard Briggs, they'd go down to Heidelberg.
Okay.
And they ran Highland.
Okay.
And some other tracks.
How about Pine Grove and Shippenville?
Shippenville. That's what I meant, not Heidelberg.
Okay, Shippenville.
Yeah, Shippenville was a big track then.
Leonard was the driver of Frank's car?
No, he drove for Russ Thompson.
Okay.
Or Red Brown. But Buzz Brooks drove for Frank.
Oh, he was a hot dog.
Yeah, he never won, but he was a good finish.
Yeah,
see,
he was always
Frank
number
always,
93, Buzz
yeah.
Brooks.
See, Frank ran high gear with 13-inch tires with a Chevy 6. I mean, it was there at the end, but it was never a screamer, you know. And Buzz, I think I won the first race with a Chevy 6. I'm pretty sure of that around here, because they all run flat Ford Hudsons.
So your really first effort of driving a kind of a Frank Rollman, at least instructed car, was a Rollable. And then, had you gone to State Line prior to that? Were you did you attend races? Did you watch what was going on? Were you a spectator?
Yeah, I helped Frank.
Did you?
See, our first driver was Willie Wilson.
Okay.
That was 59.
Okay.
Maybe.
And Paul was from Jamestown.
Yeah.
And then did he stay with the Frank long?
No, I started then.
Okay.
Well, then Frank geez, I'd have to think. I think Paul was the last driver, and then I started. But I think Frank had some years off in there.
Okay. So you really started at State Line in '62, I guess we determined.
Late model, yeah.
Late model. And
Well, then Heil run one. See, Frank was driving himself.
okay.
And then Heil had an old car from Layfield and blowed up 58 Chevy, and he come over to beg Frank to drive his car. And so he let him drive it.
Mm-hmm.
And, but Frank should have drove it. He won the heat with it. And he wanted to make his $100. That's all we got for a late model then.
Tell us about Heil Russell. We don't know much about him.
Heil had a gas station in Kane, and he had drove for Bud Rose, him and Eddie both,
Right.
in Kane,
Mm-hmm.
and I think they were Hudsons. And are we on this thing now?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh. And I don't know much about Heil. He had a gas station. He begged to drive Frank's car, and he ran his first year. And then then the next year we had 3 cars, I think.
There was a year that
2, 4, and 6.
There's a year that Heil and Eddie shared a car.
But Eddie was always doing better than Heil was, so he ended up. But then we had 3 cars, 2, 4, and 6. That had to be in '62, because I had a '61 Chevy, and we had 2 '62 Chevys.
Mm-hmm. Dealing with 3 cars, that Frank had to be.
Me and him.
Okay.
took
So
care
you
of
would prepare all 3 cars then for the.
it. Yeah, but it was, yeah. But back then there was only 15 cars.
Okay.
We had 3 of them.
Well, it's interesting. Then the success rate was quite high. I mean, I remember not only your winning, but Heil and Eddie just.
Yeah, Heil was good, and Eddie was good.
And at some point, but they're both from Kane, and did they just know of Frank's reputation looking for drivers, or how did that?
Well, Heil come over and begged to drive the one car, and that's how it all started. Then we hired Eddie. But Heil ended up dying with a brain aneurysm.
So it was at one point to 3, and then it worked its way down to 2 cars, right?
Well, '62 and 3, we had the 3 cars.
Right.
In '64, I just drove for Frank. We had the Chevelle. We won the points that year. But I don't know what happened to Heil and Eddie.
Heil died.
Heil died
in
in
'63 maybe.
Yeah.
And Eddie, I don't.
I think he
At
did.
some point, I think Frank just said, I'm just going to have RJ drive my
Yeah.
stuff, and that's it.
I think that's why I said one car.
You actually took a year off there, didn't you, running late models?
I didn't.
In 65, Ron, you had a 65 Chevelle.
That was Frank's car.
Yeah. And in about the middle of the year, Frank sold that car.
Well, we broke 3 timing chains 3 weeks in a row. And he got sick of it, and he sold it to some Archie guy in Erie.
Archie Holcomb.
Yeah, for $1,100. And of course, I didn't have no money, so I couldn't buy it. That was the end of Frank's racing.
So that was the end of his involvement.
Well, we had that problem. And you know what a timing chain, how heavy they are?
Mm-hmm.
Just snapped right in two.
Wow.
3 times in a row. And because we had a truck front harmonic balancer on there, and trucks are only supposed to turn 2,600, and there were. See, it wasn't mounted in rubber. And we had engine failure 3 weeks in a row, and Frank just got sick of it because he did not understand what was going on.
There was an article in the newspaper that told of Frank selling that car. And in the article, Frank was quoted as saying he was unhappy with the starting position his car was getting at the track. And he thought there were too many cars starting the feature. Do you remember anything about that?
Well, Leonard always made us start last. Well, back then you started by points.
Mm-hmm.
So we were always there, so we was always up in the points. And
And you were the defending champion.
yeah. But there used to be a rule, if you got in a wreck 2 or 3 weeks in a row, you can get up front, but that didn't work for us, or Bobby. That's why Bobby quit.
Is that right?
Yeah, because they didn't treat him right either.
Let's talk about the guys that probably didn't treat him right. Were Leonard Briggs. What was he like?
Hiller.
Hiller?
Not as bad as Franny, though.
So but Leonard, because again he's passed away, so we don't have a chance to talk to him.
Leonard was my best friend,
Was he?
but we played all winter together, but we didn't talk all summer.
That's a great statement.
Well, that was just because he made me start last, no matter what happened.
And so, were there any rule books, or was it sort of within his discretion?
Leonard made his rules up as we went along.
Is that right? was there ever talk, maybe I read this someplace, about a driver's union?
Well, I tried to start, but that didn't work either.
Is that right? Was that because of this? What was the reasons behind such a thing?
Well, we had a big deal over locked rear ends back then, too.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody was in favor of locked rear ends, but except, I don't know who wasn't, but Leonard didn't want locked rear ends, but well, you couldn't run without locked rear end.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you just spin your tires all day long. And why he didn't want locked rear ends, I don't know. But that started a lot of. Then they started finding us. Willie snuck one in with the locked rear end, and a couple other guys, and they'd catch them. And it was hilarious. There was a fight every night.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Physical fight? I mean,
Oh, it got bad at times, yeah.
no kidding. Just for the camera, because not everybody's going to have the same knowledge. You guys, what's a locked rear end?
When both wheels got turned.
Oh, I see.
You didn't understand that?
Oh, I understand. This is for the camera.
Oh.
This is for the camera. Not everybody's going to be at that same high level that
Yeah, okay.
education reasons.
Well, we welded them then. You weld up side gears.
Yeah.
And, well, there was a way to make a Ford. Busink used to, after it heated up, it'd lock itself up.
Mm.
But,
So did you get much, no pun intended, traction with the drivers saying, hey, if we don't get certain things happen, we're going elsewhere?
well, they'd say, go ahead.
So they felt that confident about their being...
But I don't understand it either. When I started late model 62, we were lucky to get 15 cars there. Lucky. And there was more. But then half of them it was not a real good show probably back then when it started.
Right.
Because there's only a few number of guys that could win.
Who were those numbered guys that could win? I mean, obviously you, Ron, and you were point champion, but who's your big competition?
Well, Bobby, Squirt. I mean, you could count on them being in the front.
Right.
And no different years, there'd be different guys, but
more or less for that time period, I mean, you guys had such success. We always ask the question of all the drivers, and it's this. If you're into your last lap of a feature race, and there's just you and one other car that you really did not want to be with one-on-one because he was just a little more aggressive, a little more, he'd move you out of the way to win or whatever, who would that person be?
oh, jeez. I don't want to make enemies now. I don't know. I got along with most people, but the older guys didn't like me. But
Why not? Yeah, but if we're looking at that other guy, that competition coming around that third and fourth turn.
I'll tell you what, you didn't want to be in front of Tom Bill.
You win!
Everybody said that, right?
'Cause Tom,
It's unanimous.
Yeah.
No one has not said his name. And we told him that. And he goes, he didn't care.
but then he'd come down to my shop and laugh and carry on, and here I'm going to kill him. And he thought nothing of it. But
Good.
It's unanimous. I can't believe it. It's the same story.
I used to start, we used to qualify out and had the javelin and out to Conneaut. And I'd be on the pole, and Tom Bill you could pick. I'd take off the pole, and Tom Bill inside. And when you go by the flag at Conneaut, you get going pretty good. And Tom Bill on the inside of you knew you were over that bank. I mean, there's no way you had to let off because he's going to put you right over the bank.
Eight wheels turn better than four.
But then he thought it was really funny.
Yeah.
But if Tom walked in here today, he's my friend. I mean,
Everybody says
you cannot dislike Tom very long.
No.
But when you're in the heat of the battle, you probably...
Oh yeah, it's just like today, they have the same problem.
Yeah. Were there guys, again, who maybe had a little quick trigger when the race is over and you're in the pits, it's a kind of a long 25, 50 lap, whatever, just guys that were more likely to jump out of the car and just sort of point fingers and just a little hot-headed?
Yeah, Floyd Finelli,
It's consistent.
he was bad.
Yeah.
But today, Floyd's, get along with him.
Yep.
Well, I'm glad we're developing it, definitely.
This is a pattern. Everybody says the same thing.
Of the many races, Ron, that you won, well, let me just back up just a little bit. I'm reading this. This is from a 1966, I think, 67 program. It says, in case you hadn't noticed, Ron Blackmer's sportsman class race car is in really bad shape. That's what Ron says. Mostly it's in bad shape because it lists a little bit to the left side where Ron hangs out the window carrying the checkered flag. No, seriously, the car is quite a bit the worse for wear, even though Blackmer does his best to keep it looking smooth and nice. And so next year he's going to build himself another one after his current number 4 junior has finished compiling one of the most spectacular records in Erie's state line history. Your success in sportsman is unparalleled.
Yeah.
Why? What made your vehicle so unique?
I don't know. It was easy back then, it seemed like. But well, mine was lighter without a doubt when it first started. But then lighter ones come later. But I had the edge. I had Frank, and I had all I wanted to do was race then, and it was, I don't know, lucky.
the same time, you're racing late models. So, I mean, not only the success of the Sportsmen, but the success of the late models. Was that hard to just,
No.
from a driving perspective?
Well, back then the little cars were faster than the big ones.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause we had races together, and the Sportsmen would outrun the big ones.
Did you have a preference?
Oh, I like the little ones, yeah.
Yeah.
I like open wheels because you can see where you're putting them.
Right.
Yeah, open wheel was my favorite.
Who was your big competitor? I hadn't seen who was your? It was a, in the sportsman's class. Again, during that time period, who was the guy that was really running you?
Skip and McGurk, Stroker. Let's see.
How about those Clark boys?
Yeah, Fred and Dale, they both run good later. They weren't there at the beginning.
Mm-hmm. When did Jay come into that?
Oh, Jay come in later, yeah.
Yeah.
Jay, he was good, but me and Jay got along real good. We never had a problem on the track.
Mm-hmm.
He's real fair,
Mm-hmm.
and he's my same age, maybe a year older.
Sorry.
But Jay made me pay attention. He come to the track with good stuff, balanced motors, and he had know-how, and he made me pay attention. Because I kind of had it made until he come there for years.
What were the economics of a night at State Line during the 60s, where you'd pay your entry fee and you'd bring two cars, your Sportsman's and your late model. When the day was done, were you at a point where you were making enough money to say you far exceeded your work?
Oh yeah, I lived on my race car for about 3 years.
Did you really?
Yeah. But they don't have retirement, you know.
That's funny.
And but I lived on it. But
Yeah.
I used to make $117 a night winning a heat semi feature.
Was that right?
With the little car.
Yeah, just a little car. And we do that 3 nights a week. And when I went to work, I only brought home $39 a week. I was on apprenticeship.
Yeah.
And finally I quit Sylvania and went to racing. But I only was without a job a couple of years.
Yeah. In Sylvania, just to drop a name, Bill Hoff, H-O-F.
Yeah.
Do you know Bill?
Yeah, my best foreman.
Is that right?
Poor guy like Larry and
Larry and Bill. Yeah.
Bill and what's the other one?
Bob.
Bob.
That's right. Yeah.
Bob.
Yeah. There.
Bill Hoff was good to me, real good to me.
Is that right? My next door neighbor. So I went to grow up with the Hoffs.
But they all 3 had died.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Really? Okay, I'm going to ask you the question here. You're going to close your eyes and say, Greg, I'm going to tell you the funniest thing that ever happened to Ronnie Blackmer at State Line Speedway. Or, the alternative, the funniest thing I saw at State Line Speedway. Something unique, something distinctive. That moment where when you sat down with Leonard Briggs off season, when you were talking, you'd say, gosh, do you remember this? Wasn't that something? What would that be?
I had a bad wreck.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Tell us about
Talk about that, yeah.
And I don't know what the funniest thing could be.
Talk about the wreck. Talk about that bad wreck.
Oh, I didn't get my front roll bar padded, and
This would have been what year?
we didn't have seat belt. All we had is seat belts, you know.
Okay, right.
These were
No harnesses.
no harnesses, and we didn't have fire suits or nothing, you know, back there early. All I ever wore was a T-shirt, and my first helmet just had leather from the ears down, you know.
That looked familiar?
That wasn't my
Personality,
first
yeah.
helmet, no. But
Shoot. I don't have it. Well, here's an example.
my neck stretched out and hit the front roll bar, and Litz and Parmenter got together and they went in the infield. And it was so dusty, I never lifted. I was running second, and somehow they got back out on the track in front of me, and I hit him full bore and put a hole in my head there. And they had me dead, but I come out of it.
They take you to the hospital right away? Is that?
Oh yeah.
What year was Ron?
Gee. Probably 63,
63.
I think.
I'll check into that.
I'm not really sure.
With that kind of accident, obviously there was a kind of a hush in the crowd, and they take you out and stop the racing. How long did it take for you to kind of get back in the saddle?
Well, I had Bob drive for me for 2 weeks, my little car.
Right.
Because he's the only one I knew could take it to the front, because it was powerless. It didn't have no power. And I knew Bob could get it there. But Eddie and Heil were my teammates then, and I knew they couldn't make it. But I had a lot of respect for Bob. I knew he could get it there, and he did both nights. 3 nights.
At some point, you get back in there, in the car. Was there that first time you strap on the helmet?
Nah.
Just
when the flag drops, the bullshit stops. You know. It's all over.
Yeah.
You don't think of nothing except running. I mean, that's the way I was.
Ron, Greg asked you about Leonard. Tell us something about Jerry.
Well, they always handed stuff down to Leonard. I mean, his was the last say. If you went to Jerry or Lloyd, Don didn't say nothing, but they always passed it down to Leonard. He had the last say in his way or the highway.
Right. Jerry was a track guy. What was his role?
Well, he took care of the track. Well, I suppose they all had meetings, but Leonard was the boss, it seemed like.
What about Lloyd Williams?
Good guy. He was an announcer.
Did he do the public relations? Was he doing that stuff? Well, I don't think I've ever asked a question of anybody, but did Lloyd ask any of you drivers at any time to sort of do publicity for them?
No.
You didn't go to shops or...
No, he didn't do that back then.
No.
They always tried to get us to come up the mall before races.
Right.
Season started. We used to do that. You got in first night free or something.
Yeah. But you weren't signing programs or making appearances? Or...
No, nobody did that.
Yeah.
That was before this all happened.
You had so much success, Ron. Was there a following? Was there a Ronnie Blackmer group? I mean, did people recognize you walking down the street as sort of something special?
Well, I got a lot of rocks in my car a lot of times. That's a track.
Really? Because of the success?
Well, yeah, you get... But I'd lose for a couple of weeks, and then the same people would root me on again. You know, it's different.
It's hard being a winner.
Well,
and then I was young, and then the older guys, I didn't have very many friends at the track when I started.
So, well, along those lines, since you were the young guy, the successful guy, I don't want to say the young brat because that assumes something, but I can see where some of the older guys saying he hasn't paid his dues.
Well, I can understand that.
Yeah. Did that bother you at all?
Well, most of them didn't bother me, but Dill would scare you.
Yeah.
I mean, I was in the points most of the time, and Dill wasn't a lot of times, and he didn't care if he won or not. You know, if he can't win, he don't want to finish. He wanted to win. That's the only way.
Right.
And if you're in his way, look out.
When the
But he used to scare me. I was a little kid.
Mm-hmm.
I only weighed nothing, and this guy was an animal.
Well, like I say, you're not alone. It's unanimous. I can't wait to try to pull all this together because everybody did the same thing. In the late model, was Bobby your principal competition?
Yeah. I looked up to Bob. Yeah.
Did you guys, here you were, you're physically located not too far from each other. Do you ever go to his garage or he your garage and sort of compare notes? Was there much of that fraternity?
No. Frosty used to take care of Bob's car in the latter years, and Calhoun was on my crew chief. And no, everybody cheated. And we didn't do much back and forth.
What was it that when you talk about cheating, taking some advantage or whatever it happened, what were some of the things that were being done back then?
Well, you had to have your right front spark plug in line with your right front spindle.
Okay.
That I remember. And most of them weren't. They were back. And you couldn't run coil springs if you had a leaf spring car. We tried to do that. We got kicked out. And
who would complain?
Well, back then Ross Culvert was
Ross Culvert?
It was an inspector.
Ah, okay.
And he tried to do his job as best he could.
Right.
And every night somebody was cheating. Either locked rear ends or motor back. Dill had his motor in a slide. You could slide it back and forth. Had different drive shafts.
To that.
He didn't ask.
He didn't, yeah.
He had different drive shafts. Just slide it. Coach had a big Monte Carlo then. He had a lot of room.
Right.
Now, did Ross Culvert have the authority to enforce the rules, or
Yeah,
did it
we'd
still
go-
come down to Leonard?
Come down to Leonard.
I assume there probably was not a lot of due process. You could appeal the decision.
No. But what was funny, way back when I started, you got paid that night. And so if you didn't wait around, especially them 100-lappers, they didn't know who won. I mean, you couldn't keep track of them. And you'd have to wait until I got home 4 or 5 in the morning. I had to be at work at Sabania at 7. And but if you didn't wait, they kept sliding you back. Because the guy, well, the squeaky gear gets the grease, you know.
Right, sure.
If you were gone, and they didn't know. And it was hard to keep track of 87 cars, and half of them stop, go into pit, and then they come out later. And they just didn't have a good way to score.
Right. Well, 87 is tough.
And they let their wives score.
Yeah.
So, like Whitehead said, Charlotte, his wife, he said, put me down for 98 laps, no matter what. So up in Erie, I won the race, and some guy rolled over, Leon Lindstrom. It seemed like he got killed. I'm not sure. But they stopped the race at 98 laps. Well, here I'd lapped Whitehead 6, 8 times. He gets second because his wife rode him down for 98 laps. And there was nobody else in 98 laps but me. I said, Whitehead, how did you do that? Well, he said, I told her to put me down for 98 laps, no matter what.
Great story.
Wow.
No, that